Safety on! Safety on!
Shooting from a helicopter seems to be super easy. You just fly and shoot out of it, right? Well, that's what I thought initially, but after traveling to Czech Republic to do a 2-day helicopter shooting course organized by Helitom and Be Ready, I kinda changed my mind. It's definitely not as simple as it looks. It involves a lot of different kind of techniques and a lot of knowledge each participant has to have before he even boards a helicopter. Not even mentioning the shooting part and trying to hit the targets. Of course, we have to start with the boring part first. Rules, regulations, and safety precautions. Personally, I'm amazed by helicopters. They're an interesting flying contraption, and I enjoyed even the boring details and theory about it, but it's understandable that some people were less inclined. Next step was the proper gear. All shooters and instructors that will go in and out of the helicopter have to wear a safety harness with a lanyard attached. When you approach the helicopter, you have to have your buckle ready in your hand and you pass it on to the instructor. He will clip you in and double check that it's okay. This serves as the ultimate safety backup because the shooters will also have a seat belt of the helicopter attached, but we are flying with open doors and the shooter actually has to lean a lot out of the helicopter itself to have a safe shooting position. That means if you slip out of the safety belt or I don't know, something goes wrong, you still have the safety harness that will catch you. You will dangle out of the helicopter, but at least you will be alive. The second, also very important part of the safety equipment is the limiter. This is a simple adjustable strap that also clips into your safety harness and to the end muzzle of your gun. When properly adjusted, the limiter will prevent you to lift your muzzle past a certain point, which will prevent you to shoot at a rotor. The worst case scenario, helicopter goes down and we all die. A more realistic but still not a good scenario is that we would have to land immediately. Then the helicopter will be grounded, then it will be an accident report and then a lot of legal stuff and also a lot of cost. Definitely not worth it, so this simple limiter strap will prevent you to even aim at the main rotor even if you want to. Also, as you can see, every rifle has to be equipped with a suppressor and a brass catcher. What a suppressor does is logical. It will reduce the sound, the noise to the helicopter pilots and to people around the range because we are shooting actually at 100 meters above the ground level. And of course the sound spreads more at that height. And the shell catcher just catches your spent brass casings. Now, why is this important? We do not want high velocity, hot brass spewing all around the helicopter, any of the moving parts, or God forbid, towards the helicopter pilots. What's important here is that you use a quality brass catcher and that you test it thoroughly because brass catchers are notorious for causing malfunctions.
Thank God I brought a lot of clothes. Business meetings with like this, no problem. Hello, I'm dirty. Yeah.
After the gear is sorted, we move to the shooting range where we confirm our zero.
Which target are you shooting?
Big circle. Big circle.
Since suppressors are not legal in all European countries, some people had to borrow them and actually re-zero their guns.
Fucking French guy switched his position.
I never thought zeroing will take such a long time and that it will be the hardest part of this shooting course.
Do you shoot the second target?
I did shoot the second target.
Great! Good job.
Čaki Samči.
It's okay, doesn't matter.
What target are you shooting?
Pro tip! Make sure you shoot your own target.
Kurba, kleme, fukajo si. Pa Francoz, pa vsi!
Remember kids, resting your barrel or suppressor on any surface when trying to shoot for groups will set you up to fail. Now that everyone finally managed to zero their rifles, we started with techniques and procedures on how to shoot from a helicopter. There are so many ways you can get hurt with firearms and or with a helicopter. So the emphasis was definitely on safety. How to safely handle firearms around the helicopter and in the helicopter, when to engage the safety, what to do with the gun when you are not in a safe firing area, and what's the right procedure if you get a malfunction. Of course, we also learned the proper movement around a running helicopter. So when the blades are running, you have some specific areas where you are allowed to approach the helicopter and go away from it. And you have some dangerous no-go areas where you should not be at any time when the helicopter is operating.
Is this okay?
Yes.
On the second day, the helicopter was already waiting for us on the range. I don't know why, but just seeing the helicopter sitting there made me feel like a kid again. A fire truck thoroughly soaks the ground around the landing area and the shooting range, as this reduces the blowout of dust, sand and other debris from the rotor wash. The last step before flight was doing a couple of shots at a 100-meter target from a helicopter that was turned off and stationary, which gave us the chance to rehearse the proper procedures and get accustomed to the unorthodox shooting position.
Get ready! Fire! Stop!
Safety on!
The pilots from Helitom were very skilled professionals and great guys overall, but seeing them put on a plate carrier with level 4 ballistic protection was a stark reminder that we're not playing games over here. We're going to fly fast in a helicopter, do different maneuvers, and shoot out of it with live ammo. If something goes wrong, we will all have a bad day. Ignition on. We can feel the adrenaline building up. Each student will achieve at least 4 successful flights with a helicopter in this course. This is honestly way more than we expected. The first flight consists of a low, steady hover, where you have to engage the targets with around 10 shots. Then the helicopter will start to slowly drift towards the 100-meter target, and you have to engage it again with around 10 shots. After that, the helicopter will start to drift away from the target, and you have to engage it with your last 10 shots, and ideally your magazine will be empty when the drill is over. I know, this looks deceivingly simple, but anyone that has ever tried to shoot and hit something from a moving vehicle will tell you that it's not easy. Despite the apparently steady hover, the whole helicopter is shaking from the rotor and from the turbulence. The shaking sometimes gets better, sometimes gets worse, but it's always present. And then additionally, you have small movements of the helicopter where the pilot is doing corrections to try to keep the helicopter steady. So in the big picture, the actual slow drifting towards or away of the target from the whole helicopter is the least of your worries. My main advice for successfully engaging and hitting targets from a helicopter would be in principle the same as shooting from any vehicle. Do not rest your body or rifle on any part of the vehicle, but instead use your body core and muscles to keep the rifle steady and on the target. You have to have the trigger prepped, and with the sights aligned to the target, you have to press quick without flinching. And now finally, the main shooting part. Everyone did a couple of fast, low-flying passes where you had to engage the targets at the 100-meter range. This is essentially a flyby, if you want to call it that. After takeoff, the helicopter did a very wide left turn outside of the range. In some moments it was banking quite heavily. Even this was quite high adrenaline situation, at least in the beginning, because you kind of had the feeling that you could fall out easily if you were not strapped in. Oh, and if you're afraid of heights or flying, this is definitely not a course for you. But after a couple of minutes of flying, you get used to it and you start to enjoy it. Especially when we were flying very low over the forest, you could even see some wildlife down below, but of course you were not clear to engage. After we completed the turn and got to the correct bearing, we approached the shooting range and the instructor gave the command to get ready. This is a cue to the shooter to turn and lean out of the helicopter, put the legs on the skid and get the rifle up and ready. When we entered the shooting range area, we could disengage the safety but keep the finger off the trigger. We were only allowed to engage the targets when the instructor gave the green light. For the targets, they used balloons because they were easy to spot, and if you managed to hit one, you immediately got feedback.
You had a choice of all of them.
Yes.
You shot the black one.
It's pure coincidence.
As the helicopter was traveling around 80 kilometers per hour, the shooting window was only around 3 seconds. Now, if you take into account that we were flying around 50 to 70 meters above the ground and 100 meters away from the target, we were shooting on the move and from the incline. So believe me when I tell you, hitting the targets was not an easy task. The only thing working in our advantage was the backstop, where if you could see a couple of splashes and if you were fast, you could readjust and maybe take another shot before having to stop shooting, put the weapon on safe and do another fly around. I started with one balloon in front of it and I saw all of my hits were way to the right. And on the first run I just shot and kind of bring the shots in. I saw where they were splashing and bring it to the balloons.
So you didn't aim with the reticle, but you just looked.
No, I did aim with a reticle, but like when I see the shots way to the right, I was aiming more to the left then. And the last flight was the Cobra maneuver. For this run, the helicopter was flying faster, and when the helicopter reached the shooting range, it flared up the nose, which makes it decelerate and stop the helicopter in a very short time. Now during this maneuver, a lot of forces from different directions are acting on the helicopter, and the helicopter is stopping but also rising a bit. When this is happening, the helicopter gets less stable, it's moving more and starts to shake violently. It seems that while stopping, the helicopter shakes more and more and more until it reaches a certain point where it stops, and it feels like that in that moment it reached the peak, the equilibrium. Everything comes down, there's no more shaking, the helicopter stops, and you have maybe a second of time to do a one precise shot. And if you're good, you connect with the target. Now, I don't know who named this maneuver, and I admit Cobra maneuver sounds really cool, but I think this could easily be named as the climax. Now, with the end of this shooting drill, we completed the helicopter course, everyone survived, everyone had a blast, it was super amazing, and I highly recommend to anyone that dreamed about this. You should definitely do it before some stupid EU government decides to ban it or something. And big thanks to Bilov, CZ, Helitom and Hard Task, because this was absolutely amazing and we cannot wait to do it again.